Hey there, everyone. So today it is me, GamePenguin21, obviously, here in the amazing world of virtual reality. Why am I coming to you in this? Well, because today's topic actually does require a little bit of virtual reality in order to kind of explain my point. So, with that being said, let's get started. So, of course, much like most people, I don't often talk about tweets because sometimes Twitter is whatever, and it's usually more of just me typing and memeing around and stuff like that. But I do have a policy with Twitter, and that is don't engage anything that engage at your own risk is basically how it goes, at least for me. And it's worked so well so far. Some other people are like, "Oh, we'll talk about all the tweets." Things like people like Alex and Rev also are just like scrolling through Twitter, and that's their whole content. But today, I wanted to talk to you about a little thing that seems to have happened in more or less the DJ community in VR chat. Now, for those of you who are unaware, there's a massive underground kind of like club scene in VR chat, and that's actually not terrible. I've been to a few of these parties myself, some of the events and things, and yeah, I have a lot of hours in VR chat, but as you can see, I have VR, obviously. So yeah, also excuse the mic quality because I'm going through some changes and I need a better microphone. So yeah, but again, scrolling through Twitter and I found this. This is more or less the screenshot of the tweets. The original tweet I will link in the description if you really want to go and check out that whole conversation. But this has been making the rounds. And I decided to talk about it because, well, I like VR, I like music, I like all that other stuff that this thing talks about. So let's read it. And then we'll just give my own 2 cents. I did tweet it out on Twitter, but I wanted to get my video format out because talking through video is a little bit better than talking through Twitter. So, with that said, here's the tweet. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but for those of you who are unaware or just don't read or I had a very bad quality image, I'll read it out for you. Don't worry about it. So, the person in question, that are responding to a whole list of tweets. I don't know the full context of the conversation, but I'm assuming that it's because of this new, or at least I haven't heard of it, the new sort of club called Heist VR, from what this whole tweet is about. So the tweet is from Nurse, and and the tweet says, not only a poster. So I'm assuming that this is just not just a poster that exists in the club, but is an actual kind of like room or something that happens to be in the club for some reason. And it says, and the whole thing says, HMD not detected. HMD, for those who are unaware, just basically stands for head mounted display. It's usually just another term for VR headset. Welcome to Heist, in all capitals. The world was designed to be experienced in VR. If you're seeing this, it means that your HMD was not detected. In order to attend, please connect your HMD, launch VR chat in VR mode, and rejoin the world. If you are unable to join with an HMD, our events are streamed on their Twitch channel. I think that I'm not going to say it because it's just, I don't want to give them any more attention, I guess. But it's basically just Heist VR Twitch thing. So I guess I won't blur that out. Whatever. Anyway, thanks, the Heist team. So yeah, that's basically the whole tweet. The response to that is like hardware discrimination for VR compatible stuff is, well, you know, that's like on the person's bucket list, and that I guess they checked them off. All right. So yeah, that's really it. So let's talk about it. So, in short, what does this mean? Is it good? Is it bad? Well, to be honest, this is not the worst thing, but it's definitely not good. I'm not going to say it's completely awful because you're allowed to make your own world, and the fact that they have to, from what I'm assuming, determine whether or not a person is utilizing VR or desktop or just doesn't have a regular HMD. I mean, what if they're a Quest user? Does that also count as an HMD? I don't know. But given the whole fact that this whole conversation is around this one tweet and this one sort of Heist VR, let me explain something to you a little bit about VR and why specifically it's a bad idea to lock out to lock out people who don't happen to have a VR headset. For a number of reasons, VR itself is still technically in its infancy and still not the best in terms of the technology that could happen. I mean, again, we might enter Ready Player One much sooner than people realize, but VR itself is still really expensive and it still requires a lot of moving parts. Concurrently, some of the best VR headsets are thousands and thousands of dollars on top of a VR capable computer, which can go from anywhere from around $500, which is what I paid for mine, to upwards of, say, thousands upon thousands of dollars. Even like $3,000 can get you a pretty decent gaming rig. And yeah, that's pretty expensive, and mostly PC VR type stuff is the problem here. So, what about, say, I know that they haven't come out with it yet, but the PlayStation VR, would that be supported as a HMD for whatever reason? I mean, again, HMD is a very vague concept of like which ones are supported and which ones are not, because there's a bunch of HMDs on the market. So if you're labeled as an HMD, does that mean you get to go to this exclusive party or whatnot? Plus, again, in all honesty, not many people have it. I, for one, have had like a couple of people come up who are in PCV or who are in the PC port only because they keep crashing out of worlds because of their own bad computers and whatnot. They mean they have VR and they can technically use it, but at the same time, it's not really the best. And again, I'm assuming that since that most club worlds are PC VR or PC exclusive or not Quest compatible as far as I'm aware, there might be a handful that I'm not too aware of. But from what I know, most club rooms are already PC viable, or at least mostly compatible with PC. And while that's still pretty good, that's still denying a huge amount of the market, at least in terms of how many HMDs are currently out there. And again, this is because of mainly the Quest that I'm talking about here, Quest 2 specifically, because they hold the majority of the market. So does that mean that you're just going to basically take a section of a section of a section and then just allow those only people into this exclusive party? So yeah, again, I know that I'm speaking from someone who is entitled and has full body tracking and everything, but to be honest, I personally want more people to experience VR. Absolutely, most definitely, but forcing them to do so is not the way to go about doing this. If someone wants to go to a club like this, that's just, again, you're shit out of luck because the person is like, no, we want only VR users in this. We want the top of the top people. And again, yes, VR is becoming less and less expensive over time, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be like the biggest thing in the world anytime soon. Because again, very few games even support VR in comparison to the wider gaming market, I should say. But very few games actually are made for VR, and this one supports both desktop and VR users. If it supports both, you should support both. That's the end of that discussion, full stop. And that's my whole point with this. It's a little bit of a slippery slope fallacy in kind of a ways that I was using before, but it is in this context. If this world becomes exclusive to HMD users, then who's to say to stop other people from doing the same thing? This is a bad practice. If it supports both, and the game supports both a PC player and a VR player in the same area, much like how No Man's Sky does, just allow them to, have that option to go either in VR or in PC. Especially with a game like this, where it's free, most people are not going to necessarily be on VR, at least not all the time. Some people just want to experience the world and just be in a world talking with the other people. And some people who might have the higher things like, oh, well then why don't you just go and watch the actual Twitch live stream? It's fucking different watching it passively than actively being in the room. Trust me when I say it's sometimes hard for me to play PC versions of VR chat because I've been in the actual room, but that doesn't necessarily mean that being in the room isn't worse than being in VR for me. It's, again, one of those things where I'm speaking from someone who has virtual reality and has the capabilities and the monetary necessity to actively have virtual reality, but at the same time, it's still stupid. Because if you're locking off a huge portion of your active player base and active people that may or may not want to do it. Not only that, since this is specifically a club that we're talking about, not all DJs actually want to be in VR chat or be in VR all the time for this reason. So say for example, the DJs themselves can't be in VR because they can't run their DJ software and stream and also be in VR on their computers all at once. Something's going to have to give at some point. So are they just allowed specializations or just not allowed to have their avatar in the actual world? That's a little weird in my opinion, because I don't know many places that actually have that where they have the DJ up on the front. Even a PC, even some of the other ones that they have where it's just like the PC. Most clubs, 99% of clubs, just this one that I'm only aware of, all of those other clubs allow the DJs to be in VR, or to allow the DJs to at least have the option to be in VR. Not all of them can, because again, not all of them have top-end computers. Most do, at least if they are actively a VR chat, DJ and constantly get paid for like bigger and bigger gigs. Absolutely, they probably do have those things. They probably have like a triple or double PC setup that they can utilize in that context. But at the same time, most DJs are self-employed, meaning that all of that stuff, while it is a tax write-off at some points, can definitely and 100% affect their performance if they, want to actually perform at your club. All this to say, this tweet kind of pissed me off, at least a little bit. Because as someone who has a lot of virtual reality and who is constantly trying to get people into reality, this is definitely not the way to do it. If you want a person, and again, I tweeted this out on Twitter, I'll probably put the tweet up right here. In short, if the game supports VR and desktop, support both as a developer. Because this is how you end up with things like exclusives on consoles. It's the same concept, just slightly differently. Oh, well, how does that work? To put it simply, to not make this video go over too long, but to put it in the most simplest of terms, if you lock off content to people for a game that they have, it makes people upset. Full stop. If the game themselves is the game that people want to play, but you are actively keeping it to a specific set of hardware or a specific set of rules and regulations, that is already, again, fucking kneecapping yourself right out of the gate. And how do I know this? Well, I have a little thing called a business degree where I'm doing marketing and where I'm doing graphic design with a minor in marketing. So I've taken some marketing classes, meaning that I'm fairly certain that I understand what I'm talking about, even with my baseline understanding of marketing. If your game has the capacity to do both, support both, because that's how you make your customers happy. It's seriously bad marketing to have something like this be representation of your actual company to a large majority of your player base or a large majority of your consumers. This allows you to basically just say, hey, fuck you, we're gonna just do whatever we want. So don't do that, because that's a dick move. Anyway, I think that I've ranted long enough. I had a lot more to say about this than I thought I did. But, and in any case, my name is GamePenguin21. This tweet sucks. And, well, a peace off.